Good evening. This is Community Unity Now, and this is Bill Morton, President of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, and I am Trudy Leong, Administrator of the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, and our founder, Catherine Brown D. Tycoon, is the originator of Community Unity Now. Our guest today is Pastor Charles Williams of the Amber News Network. Hello, Pastor Williams. How are you tonight?
I am doing great. How are you all?
Awesome.
Excellent.
We're so glad to have you with us because there are so many children go missing, young people that get human trafficked. And could you tell us? We kind of heard you say that the average police officer on the street does not totally understand the plight of abducted or coerced human trafficking victims. So is there any training for the police concerning missing persons and human trafficking victims?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. Yes, there is training available to all officers, but I believe that where the bigger issue concerning that portion is that the officers now are being rushed through their training in order to get them on the streets. So they may have the training is available to them, and they probably got a crash course in certain things, but by and large, this is something that an officer has to go back and get refresher courses on, because you can't just say I got training 5 years ago in how to identify and spot human trafficking and so forth, and think that the training that you got 5 years ago is going to be applicable in today's society. So it's a refresher course that has to take place, in my opinion, every couple of years.
So, Pastor Williams, for our viewers, could you please let us know what the mission of the Amber News Network is and how you do it?
The mission of the Amber News Network is to help, especially on social media, get the word out to the community whenever a child is missing. Oftentimes, we are either called upon by family members who told us that their child may not have met the criteria for an Amber Alert, and wanted to know if we could use what we call a courtesy alert to get that information out. We still send that information to all of our media partners and media sources to help get that information out, because a lot of times when a child is abducted, the local area may know about it, but in this industry, a person can abduct a child, and we estimate a mile a minute. So that means that within an hour, that child could very well be out of the local viewing area. So this is why we try to quickly get that information out to the surrounding areas, surrounding states, or whatever the case may be.
How responsive is the mainstream media to the alerts that you issue about the missing persons that are not covered by regular missing persons alert from the police?
That is okay. I believe the difference is that whenever let's just use an Amber Alert, okay? Mm-hmm. Whenever an Amber Alert is issued, it trumps everything on the mainstream media, which means that it's going to be the lead story on every newscast. But the problem with that, and we're grateful for what the mainstream media has been able to do, but the problem with that is they can only allot maybe 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes maximum concerning the story of a missing child. Whereas we here at the Amber News Network, we are able to go deeper into the case. Maybe if it, depending upon where it is, go to the actual site, talk with the parents, or either interview the parents here on our set, and we're able to apply more time and give the people more information, and in order to help bring a child back home safe.
So, Pastor Williams, you said 2.5 to 3 minutes for a news segment on an Amber Alert. It's my belief that not all missing persons are featured on the news. Are you covering those others that have been not on the news?
That is absolutely correct. Of course, Amber Alerts, they're gonna get the media coverage. Okay, up for a child up until age 18. In some states, it's a little bit lower. But what we do here at the Amber News Network is, like whenever a parent reaches out to us, or one of our child safety advocates will reach out to us, and they will make us aware of a case that should be getting national attention that's not getting attention. And so we have devised what is called a courtesy alert, okay, which is an alert, like I said, that goes out to the masses, just like an Amber Alert does, but it doesn't meet the criteria of an Amber Alert. But because all missing persons matter, okay, all missing persons matter, we will put it out in a courtesy alert. We'll create a broadcast and give it to the families, and instead of the families just sharing a flyer, they are now able to share a broadcast with perhaps a mother talking about her child in depth, and it humanizes people a little bit better, I believe, because of the amount of time that we're able to dedicate to a singular story.
What is the average time that for a program on, let's say, one missing person or child?
Whenever we do it, the average time of the length of a program that we do, it can be between 30 and 45 minutes. Usually it's 30 minutes. If I do it, it can stretch as long as 45 minutes. Usually if I have a mother or a father that I'm interviewing in concert with that particular child, then of course it would go on, and I would give them as much time and space that they need.
And your program, does the family and the friends of the parent, do they share the program, or does the program go into a certain platforms as well, and if so, where?
Yes, that's a very good question. Our broadcast, normally what I share with the parents is I would tell them, after we produce the broadcast, we would then take and give the link of the broadcast on Facebook. We use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And we give the parents the link and invite them to have their share. So not only are we sharing it, but the family members are asking their friends to also sharing. So a particular broadcast in a 24-hour period, one particular broadcast, it may have gotten between 2,500 to 3,000 views in less than 24 hours. And in many cases have been absolutely resolved. I'll tell you a quick little story. Whenever a family come to us and about a missing child, we will go to that local police station, speak with the investigators, find out what's going on, and they are actually thanking us for putting the broadcast together. Because what a lot of people fail to realize is when a missing child is reported, the officer, what he or she does, they will take that information and they will put it into a database, and it will sit there until somebody accidentally walks upon or finds the child, or the child commits a crime or whatever, and then they will discover that that child has actually been reported missing. So yes, this is the courtesy alert is an alert that has been embraced by law enforcement all across the country.
And do all the metropolitan areas carry your broadcast? So it's shared through Facebook, so it goes everywhere that Facebook goes, right? And to where else? You said to those other platforms. Is there anything else that people could use
Well,
to share?
here's what we know is that most people, I was just reading these stats last week, most people get their news source from social media. Okay? The older generation, such as myself, we're still hanging on to the TV news, the 6 o'clock news, the 11 o'clock news, the dinosaur news, whatever. But most people get their news from social media. So this is why we are applying a concentrated effort on social media, using social media platforms, because if a 12 or 13-year-old girl goes missing, a lot of friends or her peers are on social media. And here's the beautiful thing about social media: it empowers people to get involved. It empowers people to become a part of the process. When you're sitting at home and you're waiting on a phone call from the police, those can be some lonely hours. Those can be some very lonely moments. But if you're given a link that someone has produced on social media, and it's you talking about your son or about your daughter, it empowers, it emboldens the family and the loved ones of that individual to actually feel a part of the process.
Pastor Williams, so we're in Rogers Park, Chicago, Illinois, and that's where the chamber is. And we have a case there of a 40-year-old woman that went missing because she just she was going to go to Iowa to take care of her mother who was in the hospital. And then suddenly she just disappeared. So we're trying to help the family find that young woman. She's 40 years old. Would your Amber News network be able to help that family?
Absolutely, we would be able to help the family. What we would do, first of all, I would like to get in contact with that family.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Provide that information, get in contact with the family. We would do an interview off air with the family and then invite them to come on air with what we can share. Now, I will have to confirm everything with the local police department and everything to validate the case and so forth. And I always share with families. A lot of families, whenever something like you just described takes place, they want to put their phone number on the flyer. Listen, either call me or call the police department. What we are encouraging people to do is do not put your personal number on a flyer. Never do that. Because right now, in this time period that we're living in, scammers are calling up victims. They're calling up family members and telling them all sorts of things, giving them, asking for either Bitcoins or money on a card or whatever, and for information concerning their loved one. And so for that reason, we have launched a campaign to inform people to please do not include a personal number on the flyer. All contact numbers need to be with law enforcement.
So for you to work on a case, do you need a police case number? Is that required for you to work?
That is not necessarily required. We have work cases where there hasn't been a police number, but it definitely helps us because we have partners that that we're partners with, and our partners usually like to know, hey, what's the case number reference to this, so that if someone calls, they can reference the case number. But when you don't have a case number and you call a police department and you get that first intake person who answers the phone, they may not know who you're talking about, even if you give them the name. But if you have a police case number, then they can quickly type in the case number and everything pops up. And so, yes, it is important, but we've had a situation where a family, I never forget this, there was a mother who told me that her son was missing, but she didn't want to really get the police involved because her son was on probation. And as a result, when they find him, they most likely were going to take him to jail for violation of probation. And so there are situations like that we walk through, and we will broadcast a limited amount of information, because at the end of the day, on our side, the child is missing. And once he was found, authorities came to the house and they did take him to jail for probation violation. But our point in that issue had been satisfied in that the child was found.
Mm-hmm. So, do you find that through your Amber News Network, more missing people are found than through regular Amber Alerts?
You know, that is a very good, very, very good question. I will say this: our success rate over the past 4 years has been phenomenal. It really, really has. People actually feel more comfortable in reaching out to our network because of the personal relationship that we develop with each and every family. We walk them through the process. We explain the process of the Amber Alert. We explain to them what meets an Amber Alert, what doesn't meet an Amber Alert. But most people are very, very grateful that we do have a secondary alert that goes out and that helps to reach the masses and bring children home. And that's our goal, is to bring the children home.
So we heard that there are at least 500,000 missing people in the U.S. At any given time. Does everyone that come to you for help, are you able to help all those that ask for help?
We do all that we are humanly possible and able to do. I never like to turn away anyone. Mm-hmm. And to date, even if I'm not in studio when I get a call, I will do something, on my phone, out of town or whatever, and put something up temporarily until I am able to get back in studio and do it in a more professional manner. And the key with all of our broadcasts is that we go into great depth in a story, in a case, and we also take pride in presenting a case in a very, very professional way. It much to the point where a lot of news media actually will get our broadcast. Now they're not going to air a 30-minute or 45-minute broadcast, but a lot of news media, they get our broadcast and we send it to them with the explicit instructions to please post this broadcast on your news media, social media page. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you one thing, we have had great success. We've had great success. I know over this last year, we had the U.S. Navy involved in a search for a young mother there in Newport News, Virginia. And the Navy, they some people try to say, oh no, we shouldn't get involved with this and so forth. But a commander there in Newport News, Virginia, stated that we believe that this is relevant. We have soldiers here in this area, and if they're out and about, they need to know to keep eyes out for this girl. So yes, we're having great success in getting a lot of people involved, not only law enforcement, but when law enforcement fails to help a family. Because here's what we know, and and this is what kind of inspired me to do this courtesy alert, is that once a child turns 18, once a person turns 18, no more Amber Alerts, no more any kind of alerts, okay? And so college students were coming up missing, and family was just being torn that, hey, it's either an Amber or nothing. And so we sought to step in to fill that gap, to where we could at least give every family a good measure of hope. Does it help all 500,000? Tell you what, we're doing our part in that 500,000.
And so when they find the people that are missing, are they usually found alive when working with you?
Yes, we've had it both ways. Okay, I would say this: we have had more success in finding missing persons alive than we have finding missing persons deceased. Okay, our success rate, I would say, is at probably 65 to 70%. Okay, in what it is that we do. Sometimes, like I share with the family, we're going to do our best, but sometimes we come up just a little bit short.
You also mentioned that there's information that families should not disclose. So, what information should they disclose when they're trying to find their loved one?
That's a very good question. When a child is reported missing, that first officer that shows up to do the intake report, it is critically important what you tell that first officer. And if you tell an officer, oh, my child is missing and he's just never done this before, that officer, his whole train of thinking is going to be, this is a missing child, or this is a possible runaway. Thinking that this child may have been abducted is the furthest thing from his mind. But if you tell the first officer that shows up that I think my child may have been abducted, every officer on this planet, his or her first thought would be, is this a possible Amber Alert situation? And so many people have talked their ways out of an Amber Alert that should have gotten an Amber Alert for their child, because they were just saying, oh, well, he or she is missing and this is just not like her, and that just fits that fits 100% the narrative of a missing child. And here's the difference: an Amber Alert child, an Amber Alert case will get, of course, media attention. But when you report your child as just being a missing child, that child will be put on page number 579 in the state missing children's database. And nobody will know that child is on page number 579. That's why we have been busy trying to educate parents and letting them know. Allow the officers to explain to you why your child does not meet the criteria of an Amber Alert, okay? Let them go through the process and say, well, you know what, here's why. And I believe every parent deserves a, here's why your child does not meet the criteria. We don't have a car, we don't have tags, nobody was able to substantiate that your child may have been abducted or whatever. So yes, saying the wrong thing can talk you out of an Amber Alert, but if you say the right thing, it will cause the officer's whole train of thought to be thinking that perhaps this is a case that meets the criteria for an Amber Alert.
Is it okay for a parent to actually say this to an officer? My child might have been abducted. Could we get an Amber Alert to so that we could try to get that person back, my child back?
Yes. A person, and I've had people to do this. People have called me and said, well, we asked the officer for an Amber Alert and he wouldn't give us one. It's really not in the officer's power to give an Amber Alert. The officer does not issue the Amber Alert. The officer takes down the data, okay? He or she takes down the data. They then will enter the data into what's called the NCIS, National Crime Information Center or something like that. They will take and they will enter that information into that department. And they will also send that information to your local state authorities. And it is the state authorities who look at that information and will send the information back as to, yes, an Amber Alert will be granted. No, an Amber Alert will not be granted. And here's why. And so that is up to the state. And so when people say, I asked the officer for an Amber Alert and he or she wouldn't give me one, that's not in their power. They gather the data to be reviewed for the process. And that's important because as they gather the data and as they review, there's a time lapse. There's time before they can, get it out. Some people say it takes too long for an Amber Alert to be issued and so forth. But it does. It takes time for them to review the data. The officers, they've got to make sure that the little child that's missing wasn't picked up by an auntie or by an uncle. So they got to check out families on both sides to make sure that this is not something that was just a family matter. And then once that Amber Alert is issued, once it is requested and all of that data has been satisfied, then it will go out far. It will go out wide. It's like spreading a wide net over all of Illinois. Mm-hmm. And then we begin to pull that net back in until we can find that particular child. But yes, that's a great question.
Pastor Williams, time is almost up. Could you give our viewers your contact information about how they could reach you and contact you if they need
Sure.
you?
Absolutely. You can reach me. I'm on Facebook. Okay, we're on all social media. We're on Facebook. Amber Alert Founder. They're on Facebook. You can go to any one of our pages. You can reach us through Messenger, and we will get back with you because we don't turn people away. Also, let me close with this. I shared with you all about www.findmybeloved.org. That they fill the gap. I know we're running short on time, but they fill that gap. But while the officers are waiting for an answer for an Amber Alert, go to www.findmybeloved.org, enter your child's information in there, and while you're waiting, that information is already going out to thousands of people who are also sharing about your child before you get a decision back.
Well,
And
thank you so much, Pastor Williams, for being our guest on Catherine Brown D. Tycoon's Community Unity Now. So informative. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.
God bless you. Love you all. Thank you.